Hey everyone, welcome to the Essentials channel again. So today we will be doing our review on Bloomsbury residences. Will it bloom or will it be buried in today's market? Alright, so to start off, so here's a quick summary of what Bloomsbury Residence is. Basically, it is a development in the new Greater One North region. Alright, there's some master plan changes going on down there with all the commercial buildings like Fusioner Polis, so on and so forth. I think now we are no stranger to all the commercial buildings that we have down there. So what is it in it for the transformation happening there? What is the government planning? And most importantly, it currently lacks an MRT as well as a school. This new township itself, is it going to be livable? Alright, especially with such a huge workforce down there, high demand but very limited supply in the area. How would it fare? And that's why we are here to do this analysis for you today. So as always, we'll be starting off with our usual project framework structure. Number one will be, of course, the rapid fire info. Number two, the site plan and floor plan analysis. Number three, why I will not buy Bloomsbury. Number four, why I will buy Bloomsbury. Number five, the price prediction. And number six, my final verdict as well as my Evergreen scorecard. So as always, we cannot time the market. The key thing about our Evergreen scorecard that plays a huge weightage will be its exit strategy. But most importantly, whether good times or bad times, can we exit or not? And that will mark my Evergreen scorecard and we can weigh it from there. So to all my audiences out there, I've received a lot of feedback and some of you, like what I said, even approach me in real life and then say hello to me and say that you like my content. I still see a lot of people who view my content. 80% of them are non-subscribers, 20% are subscribers. What happened to my 80% people? So if you like my content so far, please remember to like, share and subscribe. I will be very motivated to continue creating more in-depth content for you. So before we begin, this will be some of the project perspectives, how it will look like, especially with the wonderful views and the landscaping that this project has to offer. Alright, so now we move on to the rapid fire information. So first of all, this is Bloomsbury Residences and Bloomsbury Shops or Shoppes. Alright, so the developer is Media Circle Development Private Limited, a joint venture between Qingjian Realty Group and Forsea Holdings, which they bring you the likes of Jadescape, they bring you the likes of Hillock Green. So you'll realize that their focus has always been on the landscaping and somehow they always choose developments that faces greenery right now. So they had a previous stigma, of course, because being a China company, people have questions on their quality, but I think they have outdone themselves with Jadescape. If you actually went to Jadescape itself, from the lobby to the facilities to the landscaping, it has been done very well. They are very conscious about the views, and most of the time it comes with unblocked views of the surrounding that increases the livability scorecard. Alright, so next thing, it is a residential development comprising of one block of 23rd story, one block of 21 story, one block of 14 story apartments with commercial on the first story, car park at first story and the basement. Location, it is in the Media Circle following the Queenstown planning area in the RCR. Right, address is 61, 63 and 65 Media Circle. Tenure 99, leasehold from 7 May 2024. Right, the expected TOP date is 7 February 2029. And of course, sitting on a site area of 10,632 square meters. Okay, so we have total number of units 358 with 143 car park lots and 4 commercial car park lots to cater to the commercial side of things and 90 residential bicycle lots. Just based on this fact itself, we already know that this is in line with the government's recent direction for townships, where we are going for more car-like township as well as autonomous driving cars. Meaning to say, I think government is gearing up and preparing for the day where cars will be driven without drivers, especially when it comes to public transport. And with the development of new townships, I think they are preparing for this direction, and thus only 40% capacity of car park lots within the developments. This is not the first time we are seeing this. Based on the last review that we just done, which is One Marina Garden Residences, we also realized that they have very limited car park lots. And again, if you go and dig their master plan, they are actually preparing for this car-like direction as well. So next, this is all your architects as well as the landscape consultants, so on and so forth. Now, if we look into the location map, this is basically it, Bloomsbury Residences. This is the location map in 3D. So you will realize that, of course, Bloomsbury Residences is facing the Wessex estate, where it is surrounded by a lot of black and white colonial buildings, black and white buildings, residential buildings at this current moment. If you look at the master plan itself, it will be subjected to future planning. I believe that this will not be in the very near future. It's going to take quite a while for this township to further develop before they actually open this place up for sale or planning. Hopefully not in the near future, otherwise it will obstruct the beautiful view that you're going to get. Most importantly, I've been to the show flat itself. You can imagine staying in a 4 bedrooms with the kind of landscape layout or whatever it is that looks up to this wide frontage of beautiful views, all right, of the colonial estate as well as the black and white conservation houses. All right, that wide frontage of greenery stretches to a very, very wide land itself. Okay, so from there, the developer has strategically placed the blocks accordingly that most of them get this widest exposure to this very beautiful view for this current moment. Of course, if you take the stacks that face behind, you will be met with the GLS Parcel A as well as the various lands that are already slated for residential development. So here are the views. All right, so another thing to take note of, all right, is the rail corridor itself. So you remember in my previous video of the 3-phase transformation, I actually mentioned that the whole rail corridor that actually travels from Kranji all the way down to Tanjong Pagar. Why this is such an important development is because the rail corridor was exchanged with Malaysia using 2 lands, dual residences as well as Marina 1 residences. These 2 lands were in exchange to take back this rail corridor from Malaysia, and finally now we can develop the lands that surround this rail corridor. And if you realize why this is such an exciting township, it's because this township is right beside the rail corridor, and that's why there will be this new community called the Queen's Note. All right, basically there will be a museum, a heritage museum that will walk through what Queenstown is like. They want to build this township around this heritage, but just like my 3-phase transformation framework, you will realize they actually use 2 lands to take back this rail corridor. They are definitely not gonna leave it empty. They want to make full use of it and develop the surrounding areas of this Queenstown, which actually fills the void for many residents in this area. Okay, so now moving forward to the site plan analysis. So right now you see this is the site plan. You got block 63, which is 14 floors, block 61, 23 floors, block 65, 21 floors. All right, so stack 11, stack 12, stack 6, 7, 8, 17, 18, 19, and 20 faces the Wessex estate, where you will get the very nice landscaping and unblocked views of the whole surrounding area. Right? Of course, if you get stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 15, 14, 13, 9 and 10, basically you are looking at future residential developments. For me, I would definitely feel that the one facing the unblocked views are the ones to go for down here, because most importantly, who are you catering to? You're catering to homestay demand, and livability factor is the most important to look at, because as long as it is livable, it will meet the homestay needs. Once the needs are met, no matter how expensive it is, people will still buy as long as they can afford, just like what I said in my previous video. And whenever people needs are met, that is where your price will always remain sustainable. Okay, so the facilities are all centralized. You will have your pools, you will have your clubhouse, and most importantly, the tennis court. And like one very, very lovely influencer always says, having tennis court is always a what gui. Alright, but of course, I think we must also take note where the tennis court position is at also lah. So this is my next concern, which I will cover in why I will not buy Bloomsbury residences. So next, you will see how the residential car park and public car park is located and allocated. To sum it off, this is sitting on a trapezium shaped land, quite regular, but it's not too big to do anything extravagant or extensive. So we really need to see how Qingjian actually spaces out and plans out the landscaping, especially they were very well known for that. So here we have the site plan facilities. Basically, you will see all the facilities as listed down here. You got your leisure and working, social activities, family and children, central courtyard, aqua lifestyle, park connection, and retails. So this is the concept that the developer has actually planned out for, and these are some of the perspectives that you will see within the development's facilities. They try to replicate what CCR properties and places like Sentosa, where you get W residences. Alright, they have this place where it is like a central courtyard where you get this very big open sitting area, very grand with very high ceiling, surrounded by a lot of water feature, basically mimicking that kind of lifestyle by the waters, so on and so forth. So this is a bit of the perspective of what they will be giving you, just to match the surrounding theme and the surrounding nice landscaping that this environment has to offer. So now we move on to the floor plan analysis. We start off with the unit mix first. Total, there's 358 units. They are non-PPVC layout, meaning to say some of the walls will enable you to have some flexibility to customize the layout, like such as hacking the walls so that you can expand certain spaces. But let's look at it. This is the unit mix. So we have 4 types of 2 bedrooms, 2 bedroom premium, 2 bedroom premium plus study, 570, 646 square feet, 678 and 689 square feet respectively, total comprising of 53.1%. We move on to the 3 bedrooms. Total you have 5 types of 3 bedrooms, 3 plus study, 3 premium, 3 bedroom premium plus study, as well as 3 bedroom plus flexi. So 904 square feet, 980 square feet, 980 square feet, 990 square feet, and 1098 square feet respectively. Followed by the 4 bedrooms, you got 3 types, 4 bedroom premium plus study, D1, D2 4 bedroom plus study, as well as D3 4 bedroom suite plus flexi. 1173 square feet, 1206 square feet, 1421 square feet respectively. Followed by the penthouses. Alright, what I really like about this unit mix is this. Just like my previous video always mentioned before, alright, we always have to look at the unit mix, whether are they in line with the government's vision of livability or not. And true enough, the unit distribution in this development is very, very good, because why? You have 53.1% for the 2 bedroom units, meaning to say they are catered to more investment aspect of things, but they also can cater to the homestay audiences. All right, there's no 1 bedroom in this development, which might be a good thing. And then of course, you see the remaining 47%, all right, catering to homestay demand. And this is a good thing because about half of the project is actually catering to these homestay audiences, which will keep prices sustainable. And this is exactly the vision that the government has for this area. Why I say that not having 1 bedrooms is actually a good thing, because the 1 bedroom demand in this high homestay demand area may be quite low, and it might cause erratic pricing in future exit strategy. Why do I say that? Because most of the time people who buy 1 bedrooms are here for the yield as well as investment purposes, maybe like a forced savings plan or building capital plan. The thing is this, because it's bought for investment, anytime they can decide to exit because of certain circumstances, they are here to rent it out. So over the years they rent out, they already draw the money in already. They may be able to cut losses earlier and go on to their next plans as well. And because this is a high homestay demand area, the demand for 1 bedrooms may not be that high. So it affects future exit strategy. The owners of this may actually cut the price. When they cut the price, means your PSF drop. And you know how consumers always like to compare a smaller unit versus a bigger unit's PSF. By right, they will take reference from the smaller unit's PSF, because these owners have no choice but to cut price to sell. Alright, in a way it will affect the bigger unit's PSF. You know what they always say lah, hey, if this smaller unit the PSF is like that, by right a bigger unit PSF should be lower ma. Then if it is lower, then end up they will take reference against the 1 bedroom PSF, and that will pull down your 2, 3, 4 bedrooms PSF. In this case, for Bloomsbury residences itself, you will not be having that problem. Alright, basically it starts from the 2 bedroom at 570 square feet, 646 and 678 square feet, as well as 689 square feet. This is a good thing. So now we move on to the schematic chart. 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, this is how it will be laid out in block 61, 63 and 65. Basically, you have an elevation to further take advantage of the beautiful views that surrounds this development. So now we start off with the 2 bedrooms layout. Fortunately, we got the comparison ready for you, so it's going to save us a lot of time. Basically, it is B1, B2 and B4, where it is the dumbbell layout. We have B3, which is the traditional 2 bedroom layout. So for type B1, 570 square feet, I would think this is more of an investment unit because it is an open concept galley kitchen. Dining area that combines with the galley kitchen, followed by the living area, and then the 2 bedrooms by the side with a 1 bathroom, which is the master bath. Good thing is this is Jack and Jill, so whenever you have guests coming over, they don't have to step into your master bedroom and invade the privacy. They can access the master bath just by entering the bath from the living and dining area. So of course, to me, this is the replacement for 1 bedrooms. Move forward, we have type B2. Basically the same size master bedroom and second bedroom, but this time around the difference is it's a 2 bed 1 bath but with an enclosable kitchen. So for those who smaller families or couples starting out with their building capital journey, this might actually be a good layout to keep the quantum low but yet get something functional to be living in. And of course we have type B3. This is the traditional 2 bedroom layouts that we are very much used to. You get your living and dining, all right, of course an L-shaped kitchen. And then, of course, as we walk down the corridor, you got the 2 bedrooms running parallel to the 2 bathrooms. What I am really concerned about in this layout is there is no designated living and dining area. The living area there is, of course, just like every other 2 bedrooms, but you will realize one problem. Unlike other 2 bedrooms that we see maybe in Lentor Central residences and more, there is no designated space for the dining area. Basically, you see the layout putting the dining table within the kitchen area, and this is going to be causing a lot of clutter as well as tight spaces. Basically, this may not be one of the best layouts that we can get for a 2 bedroom, and I'm very much concerned about the exit strategy because the livability of this layout is not there. This is a huge disadvantage for this development if you're going for the 2 bedrooms. Now we move forward to the 689 square feet 2 bedroom 2 bath. This is the one that actually is a good layout 2 bedroom. As you walk in from the foyer and the entrance area, you will be greeted with a study area on the right, kitchen and closable kitchen, designated dining, 2 bedrooms on the left and right, and 2 bathrooms on the left and right, with the living room space followed by the balcony. So this layout itself, I also have a little bit of concern because to me, whenever I look at layouts that time, my number one key thing to avoid is avoid overlapping spaces as well as random classification of spaces. Basically here, they are just trying to carve out a small space down there and name it a study and then try to sell you this as a 2+ study, when in actual fact, this is just a random space connected to the dining area. It is not carved out purposefully for the usage of a study area. And that to me is something that I will be wary of when it comes to the 2 bedroom layouts. So basically, in terms of this development, the 2 bedroom layouts are not my most ideal layouts. In fact, they are quite detrimental, I must say, all right? Especially with the ones like the dining area that is overlapping with the kitchen area. That itself is a big red flag. So the 2 layouts that you can really choose at Bloomsbury Residences is type B2 and type B4, because when you look at type B2 itself, there is a designated space for a dining area, and that's what we should be looking for. So livability affects the exit strategy. B2 and B4 allows very high livability, and that would grant good exit strategy. Type B1 and B3 may not be able to do so, especially with the points that I've just mentioned. So in summary, type B1, you will be facing the media circle side of things, which will be blocked by future developments because of GLS Parcel A in the media circle, as well as the other future lands that is subjected to planning. Right, type B2 is the same facing as type B1, facing the media circle side, meaning to say you'll be blocked by future buildings. Type B3 is also the same thing. All right, and then type B4 is the one that actually faces the very nice unblocked landscaping view of the surrounding conservation houses. So that's why I think the developer focuses the good facing on the good units like type B4. So now we move on to the 3-bedroom layout analysis. Here we have 5 types of 3-bedroom as what we can see here. We have type C1, which is 904 square feet. As we enter from the entrance, you'll be greeted with this Z entrance walkway, which grants you more privacy. You can build your shoe cabinets, more storage area, especially this is the 3-bedroom compact classification at 904 square feet. I think this is a good size because this actually takes advantage of the harmonization effect, and it will be probably a 936 square feet in the previous policies. So you will get your enclosed kitchen, a designated dining area that can fit at least a 6-seater, at least 3-meter wide living room space, with a small study area in the corridor walkway, and then of course with the 3 bedrooms running in parallel to the 2 other bathrooms. I think you really get very functional 3 bedrooms, and it has kept the quantum low by maintaining at 904 square feet. If we move on, right, we'll get type C2, which is a 980 square feet. This is probably the previous classification of a 3-bedroom premium. They capitalizing on the harmonization effect. It has probably dropped the size from 1024 or 1044 to a 980 square feet. You can see from here, no wastage space at the front entrance. The minute you enter, you are greeted by the kitchen, comes with the yard, WC, and the bomb shelter. So for your various needs and purpose. Coming in, you have a designated dining area, followed by the living area, just like every other 3 bedrooms, with the 3 bedrooms running in parallel to the bathrooms. So nothing much to complain about for this 3-bedroom premium layout. This is exactly as good as it can get. Basically, with the URA policies in place, it ensures that good products are placed in the market so that consumers don't have to worry about this anymore. Next, we have type C3. Type C3 actually mimics a similar layout, just that they changed the kitchen placement a little bit. It is also 980 square feet, but just a slightly different orientation for the kitchen. The minute you enter, straight away you are entering into the dining area, followed by the kitchen on the left with the yard, WC, and bomb shelter. And then of course, as we turn right from the entrance area, you'll be greeted with the living room. This basically has slightly lesser privacy because the minute your guest walks in, straight away they can see the full view of your living and dining. But this also gives a different perspective to homeowners. The minute you walk in, you're greeted with this wide frontage of your home. I think it's actually quite a good thing. It actually mimics the perspective of having a landscape layout, but in actual fact, this is a portrait layout. All right, so just by changing the door position, it changes the perspectives of how you view your own unit. The next thing, just like every other traditional three bedrooms on the right with the bathrooms running in parallel to it. You get a small study area. Basically, you can double up as an additional storage area, if not just a study for your own usage. All right, so next thing, mimicking the similar layout and orientation, the type C4, actually the 990 square feet, the extra 10 square feet is contributed into a wider dining area. You can see in comparison, the 980 square feet C3 versus the C4, you will see that the C3 itself, the dining area is running in parallel to the walls that links to the living room. But for the C4, type C4, you actually have a recessed area that tucks the dining in to the left side of things, all right, which grants us actually a wider dining room space if you ever need to. All right, so meaning to say you can actually use the space to fit a 10-seater dining, all right, and this actually, the minute you come in from your main entrance, you will be greeted with more grandeur and space. Followed by the show flat unit, which is type C5, 1098 square feet. This is actually my favorite layout, because if you recall Nava Grove, the reason why it sold so well was because of this layout, and they are mimicking the same kind of layout here at Bloomsbury Residences. The minute you walk in from your entrance, you get a very wide dining area that leads onto your living room area, enclosed kitchen on the right side of things, and then you get your yard WC bomb shelter. You get this flexi room, all right, that you can decide whether you want to hack down the wall to give you a wider landscape layout living room, or you can keep it for a good study area depending on how big your family is. All right, you can actually customize the purpose for this flexi room. Next, bedroom 1, 2, 3 running in parallel to the 2 bathrooms that you get to see here. So this actually, like I said, mimics what Nava Grove actually gave, and you can see how well did Nava Grove sell in the first day. They sold more than 70% on the first day because of this layout. The minute the consumers walk in, they really had this very good feeling about the 3 bedrooms, and this is exactly the winning formula. So all in all, to me, C5 is the best layout. If I were to pick in terms of compact, you only got one choice, which is the 904 square feet. I would actually look at the 990 square feet type C4 as my second top choice if I want to keep the quantum low as compared to type C5, where it's a bigger unit. Overall, all in all, the 3 bedrooms layout, there's no detrimental factors like how the 2 bedroom was. Buy this, more or less can't go that wrong. Right, so in summary, let's look at all the views. For type C1, it's the one that will be facing future land parcels that eventually your views will be blocked. You have type C2, which actually looks at the other block, which is block 63. As you look out, you will look into block 63, your neighbor, which is not so ideal. All right, that's why another type C3, you will look out to the landscaping view, all right, with the black and white houses. And of course, type C4, C4 looks back into the other block of block 61, although it has the best layout and it's my top choice layout, but the view itself may not be so ideal. All right, and then of course type C5, all right, you have the one that faces the Portsdown Road views, again facing the full landscaping of the black and white houses. Now we move on to the 4 bedrooms. You got type D1, D2 and D3, 1173 square feet, 1206 square feet and 1421 square feet. So as you come in from the main entrance for the type D1, on the right side, you'll be greeted with the kitchen, basically almost the same as how the 3 bedrooms look like. But walking in, you will be greeted with this very wide dining area. Minimally, you can fit an 8-seater dining set, but I'm sure you can fit at least a 10 to 12-seater, brings in the grandeur and the spaciousness. All right, you go in for a 1173 4 bedrooms here, keeps the quantum low, fills up the price void of the current market, but yet you are getting the full functionality of a 4 bedrooms, and this is the trend moving forward. I believe this new classification of 4 bedrooms due to the GFA harmonization will cater to this very strong future demand and future consumers. They even offer a dry kitchen pantry area. You can totally imagine the kind of lifestyle that you'll be getting when you buy the 4 bedrooms here. Moving forward, you'll get the living room area, and then followed by the 3 bedrooms on the left side running in parallel to the bathroom, and you get a 4th bedroom that is tucked away in the right side corner at the end of the corridor space. Next, you have type D2. Basically, it's quite similar to whatever that we just saw, but you got a narrower dining area. You don't have that kind of extra space that separates the kitchen as well as the dining as compared to D1. The minute you walk in, you got this Z-shaped passageway which gives you privacy, but otherwise this is your typical portrait layout 4-bedroom. Alright, for the first one, as we see in D1, although it is smaller, but you get a hybrid of a portrait come landscape layout. But if you go for D2, this is just the two walls running in parallel against each other. So meaning to say that you are just getting a portrait layout. Your 4 bedrooms will look kind of long instead rather than wide perspective where a lot of people want to go for whenever they get a 4 bedrooms. Traditional layout, you get the 4 bedrooms running in parallel to the toilets as you walk down the corridor space. Alright, this again, it's a bit different from the 1173 square feet in terms of the D1 layout. Why? Because it will make your corridor space feel very, very long. Alright, as compared to D1 where you have 3 bedrooms below and then 1 bedroom on top, it reduces the corridor space. So if you ask me, in terms of layout efficiency, I would actually say D1 is more efficient than D2 because D2 is 1206 square feet, it's bigger, but yet it's not giving you extra space in the living or dining. My 1173 square feet is although smaller, but it gives you a bit more space in the dining area, and of course you get lesser space wastage in terms of corridor space. I would feel that the 1206 square feet, the extra space is actually the corridor space eating into it. Of course, the 1206 square feet offers a bit of flexibility. You can hack down the 4th bedroom to make your living room get that landscape layout. But then, why do I need to compromise the 4 bedrooms? Why do I need to pay for a 4 bedroom pricing and compromise the layout and reduce myself back to a 3 bedroom layout? If that's the case, then I might as well just buy a 3 bedroom layout, alright, that can give me the same functionality. Alright, and in fact, if you look at the 3 bedroom layout, the Type C5 actually gives you a very good feeling the minute you enter because of the wide dining area as well as the very reasonably long living and dining space combined together. So with that in mind, the Type D2 4 bedroom may not be so ideal. Alright, of course, if we look at Type D3, this is the biggest 4 bedroom of them all, the most grandeur one, the most spacious one, 1421 square feet. Basically, this is harmonized project. I would think that the quantum would have exceeded its price range. Of course, if you are using for your own family needs, by all means, go for this unit because imagine having this landscape layout look out to the very nice unblocked views that surround this development. As you enter from the private lift lobby, okay, you are greeted with a very nice dry kitchen area as well as the dining area. This is your typical 4 or 5 bedroom layouts that you always get with a landscape orientation. So if you look at that, the living room, there is actually a flexi space where you can actually knock it down to make your living room space even wider. Alright, this is the kind of layout that we talk about, and you see the balcony runs all the way from the living room wall all the way to the flexi wall. Basically, the minute you walk in and you just imagine yourself opening up to this very wide greenery, a panoramic view, followed by the 4 bedrooms all on the right side of things. Okay, this one is a combination of the Type D1 and D2. Basically, this one gives you all the awesome factors that a 4 bedroom must have, right? Shorter corridor space because they layer the 4 bedrooms. It's not one whole row of 4 bedrooms, right? This one you got 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, and then with the 4th bedroom below. Alright, that can also mimic something like a junior suite if you ever want to. Then of course we have the penthouse layouts. Here is your penthouse layouts. So here are the 4 bedroom views. Type D1 will be actually looking towards the facilities and then of course looking towards the colonial houses view. Again, you will get the wide frontage of the greenery view right in front of you. This is one of the best views you can get because why? You also want to anticipate the future. Because in front is going to subject to future planning. Facing this view of your own facilities and your own landscaping is a permanent view, can't go that wrong. And of course, in the meantime, you get to enjoy the unblocked view of the colonial houses. This one, the Evergreen scorecard is there because it is evergreen in that sense. Your view is evergreen. Alright, moving forward, of course, you have Type D2. Alright, D2 itself opens up to the wide frontage of the colonial houses view, and of course D3 the same thing as well, is the same facing as D2. Now we move on to why I will not buy Bloomsbury. Number one is the lack of MRT as well as the lack of school. Alright, so livability is the main factor down here, but if actually you go and walk the site right now, basically the accessibility is a big question mark for myself as well. Alright, as a consumer, I would definitely hope there are bus routes or at least some form of transportation that I can access easily. And the thing is this is in comparison to the nearby estate, which is of course One North. I mean, this area itself is also belonging to the One North region, but in terms of accessibility wise, it is nowhere near what we know One North for. All right, if you look at the likes of One North residences, the Hill at One North, the Blossom by the Park, as well as the One North Eden, what really got them such a high demand is also because of the accessibility to the mall as well as to the MRT. All right, and you are not getting that at Bloomsbury residences. Of course, there is future township plans that is here, but as of now, we are still in the very early stages, and we are not really seeing that much of accessibility and transportation coming through to this township here. And it will affect the livability scorecard, and when it affects the livability, it also means that the future exit strategy may not be so clear. Number two, why I will not buy Bloomsbury is also because of the surrounding commercial buildings. It is a double-edged sword. Having such a strong workforce in your area also means opportunities, also means good rental yield, but that also means by the time it reaches the weekend, all right, you will see it becoming very cold. So livability is the key factor, and I think that's what the government is trying to focus on, to spice up the area during the weekend, to introduce more community activities as well as family oriented activities. But of course, as of now, if you go down to One North and even this area during the weekend, you will see it being very, very, very cold. But of course, with the introduction of Bloomsbury residences or population like that, it may improve and you will liven up the whole area. But as of now, if you go down there, it is really quite quiet and you don't really get much going on down there in that area. So it can be quite cold, and in fact, during the peak hour, drive down and take a look, you will see a lot of cars and traffic coming in at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then you will see a lot of cars going out at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and that will cause quite a fair bit of congestion to this area because of the very strong workforce. So it can act against us in that sense because of this, and if the government does not have good infrastructure planning, it may cause future congestions or even more inaccessibility to the upcoming population that will be introduced down here. And number three, last but not least, it really baffles me as a consumer why Qingjian and the respective developers put the tennis court right in front of their best views. Because if you look at the site plan, we have this very big tennis court that takes up a very big portion of the land, situated right in front of the stacks that faces the best view. Because when we look at it, when you just imagine that you're enjoying the view, suddenly you see 2 or 3 down there, pickpock, questionable, right? The livability factor is affected again. But right, how developers usually do it, they will tuck the tennis court in one corner so that they reduce this disadvantage as much as possible. But this developer came up with this very brilliant idea of putting the tennis court right in front of the stacks that faces the best view. What are they doing? Alright, so imagine because of that, by right, you should be getting a pool view. You enjoy the pool view, and if you create an infinity pool in front, seamless connection of spaces from your landscaping from your own internal landscaping to the external landscaping. But now you are restricted by a tennis court view. Now let's move on to why I will buy Bloomsbury. Number one, it is the first township in the RCR. Basically, because of the exchange of the rail corridor, definitely government has to make full use of this exchange and maximize its full potential. So you can see from here, in this area of the One North, this is what I also classify as the greater One North. You can see how the master plan has changed from 2019 to the latest update, and how the evolution of the master plan has progressed. And you can see there's so many white plots and residential plots in this area subjected to detailed planning. Basically, ever since the rail corridor was taken back in, finally we can use the space effectively that surrounds this rail corridor. We can dig underground, so on and so forth, as the land finally belongs to us without overstepping any overseas or whatever boundaries that we once used to have with Malaysia. So latest master plan, 5 more plots of residential and commercial after Bloomsbury residences. The good thing about this is because with the introduction of a staggered population, like that also allows the supply and demand to space out so that you do not overwhelm the whole area with lots of supply, just like what the Lentor Township is happening at this moment. Alright, and most importantly, if we look at the current One North region, there is only 4 projects at the moment. One North Eden, One North Residences, the Hill at One North, Rochester, and Blossom by the Park. Oh, sorry, that's 5. So basically, if we look at the One North area, we have a very limited supply with only 5 developments. The Rochester, One North Residences, One North Eden, Blossom by the Park, The Hill at One North. All right, now slightly further away, we have this greater One North transformation that is happening at this current moment with the introduction of Bloomsbury. You have such a huge workforce down there, such a huge population within this area, so many people working down here. Definitely, if you are somebody working in the One North area, you might actually consider staying near here and eventually moving in. But because of the lack of supply in this area, that's why you don't have much choice. You want to stay here, also don't have. With this introduction of this new township, it will open up options for the people who are working in this area, and that itself actually poses a huge advantage for this area to come. All right, so number 2, the price advantage. Here we have a graph down here where we see the blue line is the CCR, red line is the RCR, and yellow line is the OCR. With the recent introduction of the new developments in the OCR region, with the likes of Lentor Central Residences, so on and so forth, such as Parktown and all, you will realize that the OCR PSF has been raised to 2,003 to 2,400 per square foot, with it narrowing in terms of the price gap between the OCR and RCR. Just by topping up about 100 to 200 PSF, you will be able to get an RCR property. So here we have the map of all the surrounding new launches within the RCR region. You have Nava Grove, Pine Tree Hill, and then Reserve Residences, the Ori, Grand Diamond, Tembusu Grand, so on and so forth. Within this map itself, you will see all of the surrounding RCR properties hitting average PSF of 2.6 per square foot, the Ori at 2.7 per square foot, Grand Diamond average PSF of 2.7 per square foot right now. So you have Blossom by the Park hitting 2.575 PSF on average. Today we have the newest development, which is Bloomsbury Residences within the RCR, launching with an estimated value of 2.616 per square foot on average. With that in mind, the rest of them are not harmonized. We have Bloomsbury that is harmonized, launching almost the same price as a non-harmonized development. That also poses as a clear advantage for this RCR property right now. The next one that comes close, which will be Nava Grove at 2.577 PSF. That was the first harmonized development in the West region. You will see them launching at an average PSF of 2.577 PSF. And then finally, my third pointer, why I will buy Bloomsbury Residences. Actually, there is this news on the March 6, 2025, where there is a Singapore's potential rail network in the 2040s, meaning to say within another 15 years time, there will be a new line called the Tengah line that actually possibly might be passing through Bloomsbury itself. This is how the map looks like within the Singapore map and how the article illustrates it. And if we actually look closer, we will be able to find Bloomsbury running past the line as what we see. All right, of course, nothing is confirmed, but based on the speculations as well as the newspaper article, this gives a very, very good hint of the future infrastructure changes. And like what we say, government generally, they have a new township transformation. What is lacking within this area is exactly like what I mentioned just now, the accessibility issue. And I think this is exactly the void that the Tengah line might actually need to clear, because it connects the far west to central west and finally down to downtown area. And if you look at that on the map itself, that's exactly what it does. And if you observe the entire rail network, you will see that is exactly the void that is happening, and it will cover the One North area that doesn't have accessibility to the MRT. And with that in mind, following our 3-phase transformation framework, announcement, completion and infrastructure, basically this is a good hint of the upcoming announcement that is going to be made. Basically, by entering Bloomsbury, you will be actually taking advantage of the first movers advantage together with the groundbreaking township advantage, as well as the limited supply but yet very high demand within this area. So all in all, coming in, the macro aspects of this development seems quite promising. So now let's move on to the fourth pointer of why I will buy Bloomsbury Residences. The key thing to take note is the livability of this development itself. You will realize that developments that focuses on strong livability factors such as surrounding nice views, greenery facings, landscaping, as well as beautiful layouts for families to stay in and if we look at the developments facilities itself, it focuses on communal living as well as activities, family-oriented activities, then yes, the livability factor of this development is very high. With the likes of places like Trevor, Principal Gardens, all these that focuses on greenery views facing. Despite being far from MRT, you will realize that somehow or rather, as long as you hold all of this long term, you will always be granted with short-term, mid-term and long-term options. The price sustainability is very strong whenever it comes to developments that focuses on strong livability factors such as beautiful panoramic views, family activities, communal living, anything that caters to the homestay demand. You will see somehow or rather these prices somehow stay very sustainable. Right, MRT just plays a very small part, and with the higher affordability and stronger income of the population today, people can use alternative solutions like Grab, even purchasing cars, so on and so forth. And with the government's direction of focusing on the car light township, I'm sure all these accessibility issues will be solved. So to me, I don't think this is a big stumbling block, but the livability factors of Bloomsbury residences is very high, granting it very clear exit strategy. And most importantly, we need to look at the surrounding HDB township. So this is the statistics of HDB, right? You will see Bukit Merah 14.2% million dollar HDB transaction, Queenstown 11.9, Clementi 5.1. Basically, these three towns are the ones that will be likely supporting this area, because this area of One North as well as the Queenstown node community down here that we see, the media circle community. So obviously, if you are staying in Bukit Merah, Queenstown and Clementi, you are spot in terms of location, transportation and accessibility. To ask you to move to further places and further townships, you will not be able to access. So the next alternative choice is where? It's either you move to a condo in Queenstown area, or right now with this new alternative choice, which is the One North area or this Queenstown node area, then I think this itself forms a very clear exit strategy. This is the average pricing based on the third quarter of 2024. You will see Bukit Merah 3-room flat hitting 412k, 4-room flat hitting 900k. Clementi area, you see the 3-room flat hitting an average of 385k, 745k for the 4-room flat, 5-room flat 790k. Of course, this is the average because Clementi is split between the new MOPs as well as the matured estates of more than 50 years old. That's why you get this average. But I'm sure you have heard of news of Clementi HDBs hitting more than 1 million, and there's many of those hitting more than 1 million within the 5 years MOP, and those are your future upgraders that will actually buy this area's condo. Now they face with a lack of choices, and with the introduction of a new township and Bloomsbury residences, definitely it opens up more options for them, and they already have the capital to be able to upgrade to places like Bloomsbury residences. Next, we have Queenstown. The 3-room flat is 415k. The 4-room flat there on average 957k. Take note, Queenstown is also another area which is a mix of old flats and new flats. The old flats itself probably brought down a bit of the prices for the average, but do take note, you got the Dawson area where even a 4-room flat can hit 1 to 1.1 million. That itself, they bought the HDB at about 400 to 500k. They will be already blessed with a very strong capital and cash proceeds of at least 700 to 800k if we actually count and anticipate the cash proceeds that they're going to get back. So with that in mind, with clear livability factors in place as well as the strong cash proceeds and capital that they are blessed with, then naturally your exit strategy for this area with the government's direction of solving the accessibility issue really gives Bloomsbury a good first movers advantage and a clear exit strategy moving forward. So now we move on to the price prediction. Here we have the prices with the 2 bedrooms, 570 square feet starting from 1.366 mil at 2396 PSF. We have the 3 plus study at 904 square feet at 2.166 mil, 2.2396 PSF. Of course, we have the 4 bedrooms here at 2.866 mil at 1173 square feet, 2443 PSF for the 4 bedroom plus study. Alright, so if you ask me in terms of the prices, if we look at the price prediction itself, I would say that of course the type B1, which is the smallest 2 bedroom that faces the future land sales developments, they are probably priced the lowest, and that's why they are giving you this indicative. For the 2 bedroom type B2, 646 square feet, depending on how the developer is going to price it, but I don't think they will price it too far off. Likely it will also be 2400 PSF. Same for the type B3 that faces the same facing. Of course, type B4, which is the 689 square feet 2 bedroom premium plus study, they will be facing the best views. Likely I think it will exceed about 26 per square foot. All right, of course, if you are able to get anything below, I think it's a good buy actually, if you were to get this facing. But I think if you are the developer, you would likely be putting some premium pricing into this facing itself, because this is the best 2-bedroom facing that you can get. All right, of course, if we move on to the 3 bedrooms, this is facing future land plots. That's why they are pricing it at 239 PSF. Likely this will be the lowest PSF for the 3 bedrooms, because the rest of the 3 bedrooms actually get a better facing. But if we have type C2 down here, C2 actually looks at block 63. It faces block 63, so not too sure about the pricing of the developer pricing strategy, but likely they will be pricing this at 2396 PSF as well. Type C3, this is the one that gets the full unblocked view of the surrounding colonial houses. Likely, I think it will be at least 25 to 26 PSF because of this kind of unblocked view. If you are still able to get it below 25 PSF, I think it's actually a good buy for this view and this bedroom type, which is type C3. Of course, if you look at type C4, this is the one looking back at block 61. Right, the views are not spectacular. Basically, you are looking at your neighbors, and the setback itself is very close to each other. So I would hope that the developer will price this at the same 2400 PSF. Basically, all the 4 bedrooms faces the best facing. The PSF of actually getting it at 2443 PSF, I think is actually a very good deal. So if you can afford the 4 bedrooms, I think the 3 and 4 bedrooms down here facing the park view facings are the ones that you should be going for. And like I said, due to the increasing income and affordability based on the capital that the ecosystem has created for us, basically every time Singaporeans buy HDB first and then the HDB appreciates, it equips the Singaporeans with a lot of capital upfront. So now we have in a way caught up in terms of income, and because of the long-standing ecosystem that is present in Singapore, people really have that cash and capital done, and they can really afford the 3 and 4 bedrooms. So you will have a clear exit strategy in future. Don't forget, buying real estate in Singapore is always a need. No matter how expensive it is, people will buy as long as they can afford. And that itself, I already shown in my previous videos that the income has caught up, but most importantly, the building capital ecosystem has been present since 1964. Our forefathers, as well as Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, actually did a very strong forward planning by pushing for home ownership policies to ensure this building capital ecosystem is well intact and the integrity of it is kept in check. And basically right now, that's why you always see people being able to afford their own houses and the next steps in terms of the asset progression roadmap. And now we move on to the Evergreen scorecard. Basically, what does Evergreen scorecard mean? I weigh the exit strategy. There is no crystal ball. Whether good times or bad times also can exit. That will heavily contribute to the way I weigh my Evergreen scorecard. So many may think that this is a new township, nothing is developed, it's Ulu, the MRT is going to take another 15 years or so, blah 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 blah. Then maybe your exit strategy may not be so clear. But after all, facing the lack of supply within the One North region with such a high demand from the surrounding HDBs as well as the surrounding workforce, I actually may feel that this is the saving grace for the short-term exit strategy. You can see from One North Eden, the 2 bedrooms actually made about 250k. The 3 bedrooms can go up to 400k or even 500k. So there is some hope in terms of short term. So with that in mind, my Evergreen scorecard is actually a 7 out of 10. Wow, actually that's quite a good score here. All right, partially why there's some deducted points is because the infrastructure is not yet fully developed. The MRT line is coming within the next 15 years. To me, that itself is a bit scary, but otherwise we can draw other references like key residences itself, where there is no school, no MRT. All right, it is very premature in terms of the cross island line development, because key residences will heavily rely on the cross island line transformation where we have the Maju camp. So it really follows the same dynamics as well as attributes for Bloomsbury as well. And if we replicate that, you will see this is the profitable transactions of key residences, where we see the 3 bedrooms made 621k within a short span of 4 years and 2 months. The 4 bedrooms make 585k, and if you scroll down, on averagely the 3 bedrooms make about 450k to 500k. If you look at the Google map itself, key residences is tucked in within the landed enclave, right, with not much amenities in the surrounding area. All right, and that itself is a good testament that actually consumers itself go for developments that have very strong livability factors, good layouts, facing greenery, and like what I said just now in my video, with the likes of Grab coming up, all these, and as well as car ownership, higher income, they have made alternative solutions to their transportation and accessibility issues. They have solved it, they have solutions for it. So with that in mind, the lifestyle and livability plays a bigger role. If you look at key residences, you're surrounded by a lot of greenery, park, community activities, ideal for families. Alright, so with that in mind, I think there is actually some saving grace, especially with consumers being able to see the government trying to implement so much more infrastructure improvements. And last but not least, of course, with the surrounding HDBs that has such strong cash proceeds, I'm pretty sure this itself, they have been living in this area, they are so familiar with this area, they will find alternative solutions to get around with it. So that will form your short-term exit strategy. Of course, your mid-term to long-term, with the townships coming in and surrounding land parcels being sold, I'm sure the government will start to introduce infrastructures like a more additional mall in the area, as well as maybe like shuttle bus services, so on and so forth, additional bus routes that will improve. You will see there's many new roads being built in this area of media circle, and that is going to explain how the government is going to improve the infrastructure in the mid-term option. And of course, the long-term options, where we see everything being developed as well as new population coming in. When there's new population, that also means higher natural demand. With higher natural demand, you will see your prices continue being more sustainable and going up. So I think I managed to find a solution for the short-term option with a exit strategy down there. So people who are in this area, who's familiar with this area, will be able to accept Bloomsbury as a good alternative for them to upgrade from the surrounding HDBs to down here. And a good example would be something like key residences. So we have come to the end of our project analysis for Bloomsbury. Right, let me know what are your thoughts. Will it bloom or will it be buried? As what I always say, there is not one scenario that is the same. Alright, so please, if you like my analysis and you want me to cater to your scenarios, I have all the solutions in my mind and in-depth analysis of the surrounding. But most importantly, product is just a product. No matter how good the product is, if you are unable to overcome your mental barrier as well as the market obstacles, am I right to say, no matter how good the product is, you also won't buy. And that is where I come in. So feel free to DM me. Contact me at 94569398 for your one-to-one consultation. Otherwise, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll continue staying motivated to create more in-depth content like this for you, and how we merge the essentials concepts to all these products so that you can see a different perspective. I'll see you in the next one.